Today, Monday, July 9th, 2018. I'll call this meeting to order. Miss Sandy, can you please roll call it?
Yes, Mr. Warren.
Present.
Mr. Sims.
Present.
Mr. Henderson.
Present.
Mr. Lockett, let me know he will be late. Mr. Hill.
Present.
And Ms. Jacobs.
All right.
She's in court today.
Ms. Jacobson in court, yep. All right. All right, meetings will come to order. I need a motion first off to amend the agenda. I need to add two applications that came in for a George Spell.
Three.
I'm three, sorry. George Spell is a tested applicant. Ernest Katsulis Jr. is a reciprocal auctioneer applicant, and Storage Treasures LLC is an auction business applicant. So I need a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, that motion passes.
I'm sorry, sir, we need to roll call that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Roll call it.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Warren.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, public comment on today's agenda. Anyone in the public? All right. Approval of the minutes from the May 7th meeting. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second. Chuck seconds. Any further discussion on those minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? The motion passes. The next, we have the attorney report, investigative report. Do we need to go to?
I would request executive session.
Okay.
For the reasons stated in the agenda itself.
Okay. So we need to go to executive session. I need a motion for that. LARS 4217A, LARS 4217A4, and or LARS 4217A10. So I need a motion to go to executive session.
Move to go into the executive session. I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
That's also a roll call.
It's a roll call vote.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Warren.
Yep.
All right.
Motion passes. We're now in executive session. I need a motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Please roll call, Miss Sandy.
Yes, Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Mr. Sims.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Warren.
Yes. All right.
Just briefly, two things. One is, as you know, our statute changed to allow actual original hearings on disciplinary matters may be held in the Division of Administrative Law. Those are by choice of the auctioneer or auction business who was being disciplined at the time, so that we're developing how to form the notice to the individual that they have that choice and how to elect to be heard by someone other than this board. That doesn't mean that all of the hearings will be held at DAL. It is possible you'll still be hearing and they will be conducted the same way depending on the choice of the auctioneer. That starts August 1st of this year.
Who issues the penalty?
If they choose DAL, it would be the judge there. We would be out
Well, that we won't have any say so at all.
That's correct.
If they go over there. Yep.
They go over there, it would be a decision of a judge.
And that's at the discretion of the auctioneer that's being tried.
Also, just for the record, we're also still continuing to look at online schools. I think you had something you wanted to address.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the board and let you guys know that online pre-licensing education, we've been making some phone calls. We have a couple states that have stated that if we approve the license, it won't affect our reciprocal license. Now, there are some states that are opposing that, and it will affect the reciprocal license. So hopefully next week at convention, we can touch base with those guys as well as NAA to see what we can come up with and whether it can become effective or not. So we're on that. Sandy is doing a fantastic job kind of spearheading that. So that's it. All right, the next item will be tested auctioneer applicants. I have a Christopher Peterson whose application is complete.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion, second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on Mr. Peterson? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. The next one will be a Quinn Granger. He has emailed application. It is pending the application and the exam,
Which is tomorrow.
which is tomorrow, yeah.
Make a motion to approve pending the
Application.
exam and application.
Exam, bonds, et cetera.
Correct.
Yeah. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion passes. The next one will be a George Spell. This one as well as an emailed application. It is pending the application and exam.
And he's also testing tomorrow.
Yes.
Motion to approve pending testing
Second.
And application.
and application.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposition? The motion passes. The next item, our next person will be reciprocal, no items, reciprocal auctioneer applicants. I have a Zachary Massey. His application is in and complete.
Is what?
In and complete.
Move he be granted a license.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? That motion passes. I have also a reciprocal auctioneer, Ernest Katzelis Jr. It is emailed application, and it is still pending the application.
Ernest, what's his last name?
Catsulis Jr. I don't want to butcher it. Katzelis, maybe?
Castellis.
Castellis.
Bill Castellis.
So I need a
Make a motion to approve
pending
pending
the
proper
application.
doc- Yes.
You know?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. The next, we have some auction businesses applicants. I have Bula Nola LLC, DBA Hammer and Nails. The application is complete. Where's this auction at? I should ask
Yes,
that
I
before,
want to
but-
say New Orleans, but let me just. so I'm 100%
The NOLA
tell you.
part usually.
And who's the
It is
auctioneer, or do they have one
on,
listed?
That is to be determined. She was getting her auction license first. It's on, and it's actually in downtown New Orleans.
Who's the auctioneer?
She was getting her auction license. Once that's approved, she's moving forward with the business and hiring a contract auctioneer.
Who is the lady?
Her name is Bridget Higginbotham.
Just for the record, we send out something saying you have to have a contract auctioneer as a business if you already have not designated.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Weeks Auction Company, LLC, emailed application, and it is pending original documents.
Who are they?
Ocala, Florida.
Yes, they are from Florida. Grady, the owner of the business, has already an auctioneer license in the state, and now he wants to bring in his own business.
Make a motion to approve pending the receipt of the original documents.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. American Amusement Auctions. He has emailed the application and pending original documents.
And I do, if you have a motion and a second, I do wish to address this one.
Okay.
Move to grant.
I'll second. You have discussion?
Yeah.
Any
Okay.
discussion?
American Amusement Auctions did hold an auction in Monroe in February of this year. I spoke directly with Mr. Hohenstein, who is the owner. He advised it was online only. I have since determined that it was also on site. an address on Louisville and Monroe. So therefore, he would have to have an auctioneer, a licensed auctioneer for any future auctions he has. And depending on how the board wants to handle this, either to grant it today with that stipulation to him or defer it pending further investigation is up to the board.
What you want to do?
I think I move that we approve pending
You want to approve him without a hearing on this other one he's already
pending
done?
investigation.
You can continue the investigation, but if you approve it, he will be told he has to have a licensed auctioneer to call any live auctions in this state.
Scratch that motion.
I think you have a motion and a second already to approve him.
I'm withdrawing my motion. That'll solve that.
So do I have a new motion on this?
We have a new motion. I move that the investigation continue, that Alan's exposed to the board. Let's let the investigation go forward and see where it goes, and then we'll go back to his license.
Do I have a second on that
I
motion?
concur. I agree with that. Second.
Second. Any further discussion on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. The next one will be a Bill Ramsey and Associates, LLC.
Where's he from?
He's emailed application. It's pending the original documents.
He is, I'm pulling it up, let's see. He is, I do have it right here. Bear with me a second. Oh my gosh, where is it? You know what? It doesn't appear that I have it with me, but if you bear with me, I can get it on my email. If you need to know that in order to vote. Let me just make sure it's not in my file. All right, let's see. Bill Ramsey. It's loading. Bill Ramsey is from Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
And it will be an online-only auction, no live bidding or bid calling.
Move you granted a license,
Pending original documents.
pending documents and bonds.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. The next one will be Storage Treasures, LLC. That one as well is an emailed application. It is pending the originals.
Storage one?
It's Treasures, LLC.
I'll make a motion we approve.
They local.
They're
They
from,
insta-
they're from Florida. They were previously licensed under a different name with a different owner. The business has been purchased and the name has been changed.
So move grant,
Pending documents.
pending documents and bonds.
Have a second on that?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the approval of current financials.
Move to accept the financial statement as presented.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the financials?
Can I just make a point on it real quick? I just want to point out, board members, that when you vote to approve it, the money is in the budget for travel to the National Auctioneers Association Convention, which will happen next week, and Jacob and I will be there using board funds.
Where is it this year?
Jacksonville.
Florida?
Florida.
You want to go?
I can't. Not next week. Well, what day is next week?
It runs Tuesday through Saturday.
Oh, no, I wouldn't
We're
be
not
able to.
going that whole time,
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't be able to.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I mean,
We have the first and the second
I
from
got a
Jim and
second.
Terrence.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed?
and next year.
The
everybody-
motion passes. Yeah, I agree.
Everybody want to go there.
It'll be in New Orleans next year.
Yeah,
Where?
definitely.
New Orleans. Online auctions. It's the next item on the agenda. Discussion about that.
This is really kind of Darlene's item. I think at this point, I mean, we are all going to, well, not all of us, we will be at the NAA convention next week and at our Lenoa meeting. It is specifically an item that's on the agenda, so maybe at the next meeting, we'll have something to report back.
Is Darlene going to convention?
She is not going to convention, but Anna will be there with Jacob and I, so.
Just what is this?
Sir, I didn't hear
Just
you.
what'd you call it?
The NALOA meeting?
Yeah, just, what is that?
It's the National Association of Licensing Laws Officials Association. National Auctioneer Licensing Law Officials Association. That's
Okay.
what that stands for.
That's why we say NALOA,
Yeah,
because we
that's-
can't remember
yeah.
all the words all the time.
But we are a member of NALOA, and there's a
Okay.
specific meeting that happens one morning, and it's all just the licensing states that get together and discuss issues that pertain to licensing and regulation.
Is this one, Anna, you said was dragging their feet on some stuff?
What?
No, I don't think that's,
You said they were
I'm
moving
saying that
kind of
to
slow on
change-
what?
To change certain things, that they are somewhat, they're the way we follow them, but sometimes they're a little slower than other states are.
so we need to table this until
I
Darlene's
guess you
present,
need to
maybe?
table it, because Darlene wanted to talk about these internet
Right.
auctions and.
Table it to the next meeting.
And all
Yeah.
that, because
Get
I
a
don't know what
motion.
she had in
Need
mind.
a motion for that?
Terrence, motion.
Yeah, make a motion that we table this item until the next meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion about it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. The next item will be bond amount, discussion of potential increase.
You all have in your packet, it's the very last page, a spreadsheet I put together of our reciprocal states, and there's 3 columns. One lists the state, one lists bond, and one lists recovery fund. So if the bond line is filled out for that state, that means they require a bond, and the dollar amount of the bond is in that column. If they have a recovery fund, then their information is in that box, and it not only that they have a recovery fund, but also how much maximum can be paid out of the recovery fund per occurrence.
Well, I guess I'll start this since I'm the one that hammered on it. I don't think Louisiana has any choice. We're going to have to move forward and go through the legislature. Anna, correct me if I'm wrong in that. To
Yes.
change whatever things we're gonna change on these bond amounts. And I have been advised by a legislature that's probably gonna carry the mail on this next year, that it needs to be wrote, if this bond needs to be extended in future years, it needs to be written in the law where it's at the discretion of the board, and it can go through the register process or whatever that is, to increase it in a minimal amount, which wouldn't be a tremendously a lot, but it would be a minimal amount. What that would be, we'd have to decide. In talking, Sandy at one time had got a letter from, I believe, from T.S. Holt Company.
Yes,
And he
sir.
was talking about how hard it would be on some auctioneers, which I'm sure is probably a fact. I had a chance this morning to visit with a lady on the way down here from International Surety Division. She says auctioneers' bonds is treated in the market as a loose item. There's not a lot of scrutiny paid to these things because it depends on the auction law in the state how thorough they get, and that is strictly up to us. And if we're going to change this, you might want to put something in the law that they look at it a little closer than what they're already looking at. She said the bonds could go to $20,000 were virtually no problem the way the law is now. She said you start getting above the 20, she said, you know, it could create problems. Some people would have to fill out applications and go through a full-blown credit check, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, your bigger auction companies are having to put up bigger bonds on certain sales. They're already doing it, so it's not a problem for them. But she says the law in Louisiana, she said I wouldn't say it's bad, but she said it's lax, like it is in some other states. She said there's a move across the country that states that do have auctioneers laws are tightening the belt on these, because they're all looking at the same thing. She's aware we've got some problems here, but she don't know how much. But I didn't tell her anything, so I think, you know, whatever everybody wants to do, but I think Jeff's hit on something he has talked to me about on an occasion or two, that whoever the principal auctioneer is, and you have an LLC or a company, I think that company should be licensed as well. I mean, I think it's written in Louisiana law that if you're a resident auctioneer, there's not a fee for a business license as long as you're a resident of the state. Is that right, Anna?
There's neither a fee or a bond required for a resident auctioneer. You do
Well,
have, actually, it's for the bond. Technically, you should be registering your business separately.
But I think the law should be changed. If you've got a auction company of any size, and from what I gather by talking to a large amount of auctioneers in this state that do volumes of business, and this is just not 2 or 3, this is practically if anybody, they use motor vehicle auction deal, you got to have a $50,000 bond there. Is that right, Jake? Plus other stuff. I don't know what all it entails. I don't have a license.
No.
But you can elaborate on that, but
How would E&O fit into this, or could that be an option for auctioneers or auction houses?
E&O don't pay no fee. The only thing it allows you to do is go after them for attorney fees and
Well,
cost. That's
Okay.
my understanding.
So we couldn't use it as a substitute.
errors and omissions would allow coverage for claims that would not go through the board. Also, it would cover a defense for an auctioneer who wanted to contest the claim.
So it'd have to be in addition to the bond.
That would be
Yeah.
up to the board, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a group of us need to sit down and talk, and try to get something together, because when's the early filing now? February?
What, for pre-filing for the legislature next year, it's
Yeah.
financial year, so February, probably.
'Cause
Probably should have something ready for January.
we're gonna have to, it's gonna be one of those deals that'll be strictly, there's only so much allowed under financial years, isn't it? Because
Right.
it's a short day session. What is it, 90 days?
Yeah, I forget exactly, it's 60 days technically, but the deal is that there are a certain number of regular, I think maybe 5 regular bills per legislator that can go in that are not financial. I'd have to look up that to make sure. But this may be considered a financial because it's an assessment against licensees.
We had discussed raising bond limits previously, a year or so ago, and didn't go forward with it. I don't remember why. Do y'all know?
Well, it was because of the burden on the auctioneer. That was Darlene's big problem
Yeah.
with it.
But you
And
said,
Jacob wasn't here.
but we could possibly go up, we could possibly raise it without necessarily incurring that much of a new financial burden.
Be $100. If we go to 20,000 for an individual auctioneer, the run-of-the-mill bond rate for the run-of-the-mill individual is $100 for 10,000. Now, mine's not that high, Now, I think one reason Sandy's got a lot of TS Holt business in this, and he's writing letters, is because, I don't know, he's got some bonds wrote in this state. I know a few people that bond with him, but the only reason they're bonding with him is because he'll give them a 4-year bond for $125.
And he wrote a letter because I specifically called and asked him what a bond would cost if the board were to raise.
Do you remember what that?
He said that same dollar amount. Roughly, they run $100 per $10,000 in coverage.
What about per the auction house?
For a
Same
big
thing.
bond?
Yeah.
Usually when you go into big bonds and say $50,000 bonds, usually it's so much per thousand. I mean, that's the way it is, the way we pay it
Yeah.
in the other parts of the business I'm in. I mean, contracting business, it's usually about $7.10 per thousand.
He also said once you get over, I don't remember the threshold, but once you got over a certain threshold, that bond may have to be required for you to secure it, so collateral.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be personal. You know, once you get above a certain amount, there'll be personal and inventory agreements. There'll be strenuous credit checks. There's going to be a lot of things that go into it. But if, you know, somebody's got 700-ish credit,
So
well,
we need
probably.
to have this done by the next board meeting or in
Need
the
to have it done by November.
board meeting.
Two.
We need to do some homework and be ready to make a decision. I say by the next board meeting. And that's just my
What you thinking, Jacob? I know you were kind of on the fence.
And I may have been wrong with
And I
kind of
think
opposing
now
it
you
at
see
first,
what we
but
saw.
yes, yeah. I think the financial implications took a big, it was a big factor in our decision making back then. We're worried about costing auctioneers more money up front. Your contract auctioneers, would have to do it as well, which now I'm leaning more towards I'm probably all on board with raising bond
You're
stuff
looking
now.
at $100 for a 4-year bond. I mean,
No, you're
Yeah.
getting $100 a year.
well,
Yeah,
$100
but still,
$100
I've made this statement
Every
before, and
contract auctioneer I know makes a couple of grand.
that's what I was about to say. $100 over a course of a year is that's going to make or break you in this business, and maybe you need to look at a different type of business
This
to be
bond
in.
amount has been $10,000 as long as I can remember.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
Times have changed, and we're,
Yeah.
I mean, before this law, you didn't even have a bond.
yeah. So
you know, see Ohio has $25,000 bond.
I think next board meeting, we need to be ready to vote on it, have an amount in mind, vote on it, and move it forward. We don't need to drag our feet any further on this.
You know, I don't think it needs to go to $25,000. I think, let's try it at 20.
Florida's got 100 and 300.
Yeah, but you pay in with your,
Right.
part of your license goes into that recovery fund.
Right.
And they got a fund. We used to have one till it got depleted.
Oh, they swept it? It was swept?
It was swept by us.
Yeah.
It was swept by us to pay off some
Oh, okay.
stuff. It broke it.
Yeah. So anyway, I
That's
guess
why
we
we're
need
not in it now.
we need a motion to table that to the next meeting, and then, like I said, let's do a little bit of homework on that, and let's be ready to vote on that next time. I think we need to be
Everybody needs to be thinking about limits.
yes. So
Now, let me interject this. Whatever we do, the auctioneers up in my area that I have talked to, which is probably the vast majority of them, I haven't been able to catch some of the guys that do the Saturday night stuff. You just can't get them. But everybody else that I've talked to, they want it uniform. They do not want it on a sliding scale like we were kind of hinting around. They want it as a flat deal, because you got to start going to sliding scales, you're going to get auctioneers going to go to line about how much
Well, yeah.
how much stuff they're doing, which if they got caught would make them lose their license.
I agree with
But
that.
it ain't no use getting in that situation. Just make it uniform. And then if we do the business deal, I don't think it needs to exceed $50,000, because, I mean, that'd give you $70,000 on both of them. So,
All right. Motion, I guess,
I
whatever you want to
make a
motion.
motion, we table this for further action at the next meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion about bond amounts? All those in favor? Any opposition? That motion passes. The next item will be videotaping of the administrative hearings. Any discussion about that?
I move to do it. You gonna second that?
To videotape the hearings? Yeah, I'll second that.
Any further discussion about it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion passes. The next, we have a hearing docket, Mr. Jacob Brown.
Do we need to set up?
Yeah, we'll
Recess.
Set up, so we've got a recess on that.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to recess for a second.
Okay, my name is Madeline Carbonette. I'm an Assistant Attorney General. I am the hearing officer for this hearing today. I have with me another Assistant Attorney General, Alex Reinbold, but I will be conducting the hearing. This is the hearing for Jacob Brown, license number 1421, docket number 17-008, consolidated with 17-009, consolidated with 17-015, consolidated with 18-001, consolidated with 18-003, consolidated with 18-004, consolidated with 18-005. I would ask that the parties make an appearance for the record.
Anna Dow for the Louisiana Auctioneers Licensing Board, and we do have some claimants here.
Carlos Romanak. I'm an attorney for the State Division of Administration.
And I think we have Mr. Campbell.
Yes, Donnie Campbell.
Well, he's one of the claimants, and he will be up here today on his own behalf.
All right.
Is there any other claimant here?
All right, is Mr. Brown here?
Mr. Brown has told us in the past that he will not appear. He's currently in treatment. He has already lost his license by voluntarily surrendering. As part of my pre-hearing statement, I'm going to ask this board to formally revoke his license based on the testimony you will hear today.
All right, and as part of your pre-hearing, you have how he's received notice for the hearing today?
Yes, I do.
All right, then you can go ahead and proceed, Ms. Dow.
Thank you. With regard to that matter, I'd already filed, when we began this hearing in March of this year, my original notice of hearing as well as my notice of noncompliance, which are Exhibits A and B. I believe those are already in the record. Today, with regard to this matter, I'm going to offer and introduce into evidence. Well, let me make one comment. We had an order issued by you after the March hearing. I want to make sure that is in the record, and I do have a copy in case anyone does not have it, but it should be part of the record. Sandy, do you have the original of that order?
Come out the exhibits from the last?
Yes,
from
the
March?
exhibits from
Yes.
last March, and I think you have the original of the order. I can put in a copy at this point if you do not have the original. That
Would
was
you-
issued after that you signed.
I have
You
a
want
copy
this?
of it
You have a
also.
copy of it? I want to make sure that's in the record. This has already been entered as number 1 and number 2 for the state. And I'll make it clear, Auctioneers Licensing Board, since we have the state as a separate party. That's the original notice. I will offer and put into evidence a letter received by email on May 1st, 2018. It's already been presented to the board. It basically says that Jacob Brown has decided to surrender his license to conduct auctions in the state of Louisiana, license number 1421. He understands he may not call auctions or otherwise conduct any auction business in the state of Louisiana as of the effective date of this letter. Jacob understands that the surrender of his license means that he is in the same position as an unlicensed individual. Jacob's decision to surrender his auctioneer's license has been prompted by medical issues that have been debilitating effects on his decision-making, performance, and his general mental condition. Jacob understands and comprehends the language, meaning, and terms and effect of this letter of surrender. He has made this decision knowingly and voluntarily. Attached to this letter is the signed executed power of attorney granting me authority to submit this letter of surrender on behalf of Jacob Brown, Principal. Sincerely, Lindsey Brown. C. Lindsey Brown on behalf of Jacob Brown. We offer and introduce this into the record. And number, are we going to number the order?
Yes, that should be numbered as 3.
And this will be number 4.
Okay, they're introduced into evidence.
With regard to the notice for today's hearing, this would be number 5. It is the revised and supplemental notice of hearing that was sent to Brown's auction. We show that this was mailed and also, let's see. Yes, it was not picked up by Mr. Brown. We show certified mail and the showing that it basically was not accepted and was returned. We will offer and introduce the notice and the certified information with regard to this is number 5.
All right, it's accepted.
With regard to the notice, we also did send out notices of failure to comply on the following claims. Prior to that particular notice being sent, we sent him a notice on May 22nd, 2018, one for complaint filed by Donnie Campbell of DC Motors, and one filed by the State of Louisiana Division of Administration. This was actually signed for by Cecil Brown. Both of them were in the same notice, and we would make this number 6.
That's in Globo.
In Globo.
It's introduced.
With regard to this, we also have a notice of noncompliance that was sent to Mr. Brown on June 4th, 2018. It was also not accepted, and this would be number 7. This is a complaint filed by Jeff Darman. The earlier notices of noncompliance were put into the record at the original start of this hearing in March of this year.
All right, this is introduced into evidence as number 7.
We're going to have 3 witnesses, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Romanov, Carlos, as well as my investigator to testify with regard to these complaints. Does the board wish me to, or do you wish me to take them individually or all at once? You want, in other words, do you make a ruling on each one individually, or do you want to just hear all of them and make a decision at the end?
Hold on a minute. I think we should just hear them all at once. Yes, we can hear them all at once. And so we need to have all the witnesses sworn at this time.
Okay, we'll be standing. I believe there are no other witnesses here.
Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You're under oath. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Dow, do you feel the need to do an opening statement for the board?
Let me say this again, as I'm asking, we will address all of the issues with regard to the complaints. I have provided everyone, or you should have, all the board members and the two AGs, a listing of the complaints filed 1 through 7, the complaints filed 3 through 7 with regard to this matter, so you can follow along. I will follow that list. I'm asking the board to make a decision as to each one of these complaints as to whether there is justification for money to be owed by Mr. Brown to the claimant, and as a result, a finding that the individual claimant can proceed against the bond that Mr. Brown has posted in the amount of $10,000, which is required. We're also asking that the board make a decision as to the revocation of Mr. Brown's license based on the testimony you hear today and the evidence put into the record.
Okay, you can proceed to call your first witness.
Okay. With regard to that matter, we will go ahead and allow the two individual witnesses to speak first. That is Mr. Campbell and the State of Louisiana Division of Administration. Mr. Campbell is number 7 at the end, and Division of Administration is number 6 with regard to this matter. So if you would like, we can go ahead. They're sworn. Mr. Campbell, would you like to tell the board what your contention is with regard to what Mr. Brown and Brown's auction owes to you?
Speaking to the mic if you could.
All right. The mic will not amplify his voice to you. It will only catch it for the video
Okay.
recording.
I'll just speak loud. All right. Well, around October the 31st, they was having an auction. I think it was November the 4th. I dealt with them in the past. The lady I would deal with was named Becky. I brought cars over there, sold them at previous auctions, never had any trouble, had my money. That day I brought 4 cars. The day of the auction, I did go to see what cars sold. 3 of them sold, 1 I did take back with me. The 3 that sold were a 2006 Nissan Sentra, 2004 Volvo S60, and a 1997 Subaru Outback. The Nissan sold for $1,200. The Subaru was $800, and the Volvo was $700. Which we were there. I did ask Becky if she needed the titles. That day she said no. You could bring them, the following week, which I did. When I dropped off the titles, I was informed that my checks would be in the mail within a couple of weeks. And from there, I just every time I would call, I would say they were going to talk to Jacob about it, see what was going on, and then finally they just quit answering my calls and text, and then I proceeded to let the board know, the auctioneer board, what was going on.
And were you paid any money?
No, I wasn't.
Did you receive any of these vehicles back?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because I...
Not these 3, not the 3 that were sold. I did take the one that didn't sell, which was a Suburban. I did take that one back the day of the sale.
All right, so you have not picked up the Volvo?
I had the Volvo still there.
Okay, so in other words, so you're the consignment, and you had a contract with Brown's Auction.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know what your percentage would have been?
It was $100 sale fee for each vehicle.
So it was a flat rate?
It was a flat rate whether it's sold or not.
Does the board or the officers have any questions for Mr. King?
I don't have any questions. Does the board have any questions?
All right, the next one would be the complaint filed by the state. Ms. Fromenau, to address that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Dow, can I ask you a question real quick? Where is it?
I get you to spell your last name?
R-O-M-A-N-A-C-H.
Thanks.
Yes, it's part of it. It's in the notes. Not that one, but the current, because there's the second.
Right. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. You can go ahead and proceed, Ms. Dowd.
Everyone's been able to find, because you did not fill out a formal form, that is a letter with attachments that is actually the complaint filed from the state of Louisiana.
Thank you. I'm Carlos Romanek. I'm an attorney for the Louisiana Division of Administration. On April 18, 2017, the state of Louisiana awarded a contract to Brown's Auction Company, LLC, whose manager is Jacob Brown, to perform auctioneering services for the Louisiana Property Assistance Agency, an office in the Louisiana Division of Administration. Under the terms and conditions of the auctioneering contract, Brown's Auction was obligated to do the following in connection with every auction. 1, deposit with the LPAA the LPAA estimated gross sales from a scheduled auction. Number 2, submit a final accounting to LPAA no later than 5 working days following the auction. And number 3, pay LPAA for all items sold at the LPAA auction, less a deposit with any adjustments necessary to Brown's Auction's commission fee of 5.4% to be computed by LPAA staff, with revised payments due either party to be made within 48 hours of the final accounting. An auction was scheduled to take place and did take place on July 8, 2017. Prior to the July 8, 2017 LPAA auction, Brown's Auction deposited with LPAA the LPAA estimated gross sales amount of $215,000. The gross sales amount of the July 8, 2017 auction totaled $255,730. Leaving a balance owed by Brown's Auction to LPAA in the amount of $26,920.58, applying the 5.4% commission fee. On or about July 18, 2017, Brown's Auction issued to LPAA Brown's Auction's Whitney Bank check number 2502, dated July 18, 2017, in the sum of $26,920.58, made payable to DOA LPAA and signed by Jacob Brown. After the state deposited Brown's Auction's July auction check in East Baton Rouge Parish, Brown's July auction check in the amount of $26,920.58 was returned to LPAA for insufficient funds on or about August 1, 2017. Despite LPAA's numerous requests to Brown's Auction and Jacob Brown for payment owed to the state, Brown's Auction and/or Jacob Brown unlawfully retained and converted the state funds from the July 2017 auction totaling $26,920.58. At a subsequent auction on September 9, 2017, Brown's Auction deposited with LPAA the LPAA estimated gross sales amount of $250,000. The gross sales amount of the September 9, 2017 auction totaled $421,165, leaving a balance owed by Brown's Auction to the state in the amount of $148,422.09 after applying the 5.4% commission fee. On or about September 21, 2017, Brown's Auction issued to LPAA Brown's Auction's Whitney Bank check number 2514, dated September 21, 2017, in the sum of $148,422.09, made payable to DOA LPAA and signed by Jacob Brown. after the state deposited Brown's auction September auction check in East Baton Rouge Parish, Brown's auction September auction check in the amount of $148,422.09 was returned to LPAA for insufficient funds on or about October 13, 2017. Despite LPAA's numerous requests to Brown's auction and Jacob Brown for payment and return of the state funds, Brown's auction and/or Jacob Brown have unlawfully retained and converted the state funds from the September 2017 auction totaling $148,422.09. Brown's auction and or Jacob Brown have intentionally and willfully withheld the state's funds from the LPAA auctions of July 2017 and September 2017, and they're obligated and liable to the state of Louisiana in the sum of $175,342.67.
Ms. Romanat, with regard to this particular deal, are there any other sums available to the state for recovery, such as a separate bond or insurance?
I'm not aware of any other sources at this time.
So the state does not require the auctioneer who has the state auction to put up any other funds other than what you described today?
They're required to maintain some insurance, but the insurance is not a fidelity bond or any type of insurance like that. It's mostly to cover any kind of any torts that occurred during the auction in the event that perhaps some of the participants in the auction are personally injured, physically injured.
It's a liability policy.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if Mr. Brown had that liability policy in place?
I believe yes, that Brown's auction did have it in place.
Do you know who other auctioneers may have been with regard, who may have participated in that particular auction?
I am not aware of that.
I will tender the witness for any questions from the board.
Does the board have any questions?
Does these numbers do not include any sales tax that would be due on these warehouse items, does it?
I don't know the answer to your questions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Double check. Let me double check. I may have an answer. I do not know the answer to your question.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from the board? You can proceed with your next witness.
Okay, so if y'all want to, you can have a seat over here. You still have, in case something else comes up, if you would just remain. Mr. Phillips? Mr. Phillips, you've already been sworn, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're here as your capacity as the investigator that I employ for the board's business, is that correct?
That is correct.
And have you had a chance to look through all of the complaints filed against Jacob Brown?
Yes, I have.
First of all, there are two which are not today on our list. One is a complaint by Ernest Pickett, and the other one is from Wayne and Jeannie Betchen. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know the substance of those particular complaints?
Yes, I do.
Could you describe them for the board?
Sure. Both of those matters arise from an auction that was held in DeSeta, Texas last year. The Betchens purchased several items. I have to go in and find exactly what it was. They purchased 3 items: a gooseneck trailer, a boat with a trailer, and an air compressor. At the time that they made the purchase, they paid for the items, and the total was $4,400, which included $2 $20 notary fees. Veterans received at that time a black bag that had some instruments in it, and I'm talking written documents. They asked about the titles for the vehicles and were told that they would be supplied to them. It took a number of months for them to finally arrange to have the titles sent to them. And that turned into another problem in them actually receiving them. I was able to confirm just prior to one of our meetings that the veterans did in fact receive the titles that they needed, with the exception of the gooseneck trailer, which I believe was a homemade trailer and did not have a title. So they were then faced with the problem of having to prove the trailer to the state in order to get a title for it. I don't know if they've actually done that, but at their request, I ceased any further involvement. They were satisfied that they had received the title for the boat.
And on Mr. Pickett?
Mr. Pickett was very similar, in fact, and had made a purchase and had, I'm sorry, I jumped around here. He purchased 3 trailers at the auction in DeSoto, Texas. 2 trailers were purchased for $800 each and the third for $900. He went ahead and paid for those items at the time of the auction. The titles were never sent. Pickett dealt with Alicia Guerin, who was over at the Texas office, along with Ken Bueller, and they went back and forth over recovering notary fees that were improperly applied, as well as getting the titles for the vehicles. They were finally able to coordinate, and they received the papers on February 19th. And when I say they, Mr. Pickett. So he also asked that no further action be taken on his behalf.
And of course, both of those were involved in auctions that were only in Texas, is that correct?
Correct.
And the titles on the various vehicles were also in Texas?
Yes.
So I notified both parties that we were not going to continue. The Bedgens do have a formal complaint filed in Texas against Jacob Brown with regard to this sale, and we have taken no further action at the request of both complainants, as well as there's a question of jurisdiction. Further, I believe we endeavored, as the Louisiana State Board, to obtain and get those titles to the correct person, and therefore we have resolved those 2 issues without formal hearing. We're letting you know that, though, because at the beginning of this hearing in March, they were still an issue. We have resolved those. Now, with regard to the remainder, our list next would be a complaint filed by Jason Abels.
Jason Abels purchased, I believe it was a Jaguar. Okay, thank you. Jason Abels was a consignor of a vehicle, which was sold at auction by Mr. Brown. And he was never compensated for that sale. The values of the vehicles at sale varied wildly. One number, I believe, was $900.
I believe that is the official number that he said was the complaint. He also said he received a partial payment after Mr. Brown received notice from us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But he never was fully compensated, nor did he receive an account of it.
Correct.
So.
And now that I'm back on the page, Abels was told initially that the Jaguar sold for $1,600, and that the buyer reneged and the vehicle was then resold for $400. Mr. Abels, through proxy bid, was able to determine the vehicle actually sold for $900. And at the end of it, he received a check for $300 as payment for the sale of the Jaguar.
Does the board have any question with regard to the Abels complaint?
I believe that particular auction was held in Louisiana.
That was held in Louisiana.
To go on to number 4, the complaint filed by Transcan Group.
Transcan is a manufacturer and an importer with operations based in China, North American offices in British Columbia. They shipped a flatbed trailer with materials that they had manufactured, equipment that they had manufactured, and they had done that before with Jacob. And he would sell them at auction and then remit the monies back to Transcan. The items that were shipped here were sold, and they were told that the sale amount was only roughly $15,000 and that the money would be sent. Did not come to Transcan. They tried to negotiate getting paid, number of emails, an entire string of emails between Jacob, Alicia Guerin, and Transcan. In fact, I've got these broken out. Give me a moment.
And we do have some of those emails that are attached in your file.
I was able, through one of their administrators at Transcan, they sent me the entire email string between Transcan and Jacob Brown and Alicia Guerin, who again was over in Texas. Oh, I'm sorry, no, back in Prusia. Those items were sold here. They reflected that they sold the items for $15,210. They did not wire the money as requested. Instead, repeatedly told them that they had mailed a check. At some point in that email correspondence, the chief administrative officer of Transcan sent an email, and I believe mistakenly put down that they had received the check. Based on that, Jacob's response was, "We sent you the check and you got it." They had asked to get a copy of the check from Jacob's bank. He would not supply it, and always deferred to the fact that they had acknowledged that they received the check. And the last I spoke with them, they still had not received the check.
And the amount due again, if you would.
It's $15,210.
But they did receive an accounting, they just did not receive the check.
They received an accounting, but they did not receive the check.
All right, then number 5 is a complaint filed by Jeff Dotterman.
Jeff Dotterman is in, I believe, Urbana, Illinois. He purchased a 1981 Corvette online from the Texeta, Texas auction. When he received the vehicle, he did not receive a title. He did not have a key for the vehicle, and there were other issues related to that. Basically, Jacob and his office repeatedly told him that they were going to get the title to him, that there was a problem with the Deloach estate. Finally, Jacob worked out on a Louisiana title form that he had actually been the owner of the vehicle, I believe, and then sold it. Let me look at it exactly. No, he has that John Deloach sold it to Jacob, who in turn then sold it to Dotterman, all of which is not accurate. Dotterman went to the Illinois Office of Motor Vehicles to title the vehicle, and they refused to do so based on the documents that were supplied by Jacob. Additionally, Jacob had told him that he would withhold, I believe, $1,500 from the sale proceeds to compensate him for getting a branded title, or there they call it a bonded title, which would facilitate him getting a legal title to the vehicle, as well as compensate him for a locksmith to reproduce a key for the vehicle. And none of that ever materialized either. So he filed a complaint with us. I believe in turn, we had him file a complaint with Texas.
That's correct.
The Alderman also filed a complaint with the Louisiana Used Motor Vehicle and Parts Commission. They gave him some advice on how he could possibly handle titling the vehicle, but as the sale took place in Texas, they did not take the complaint.
And that is true. But what is the relationship of this particular transaction with Louisiana, to your knowledge?
I believe it is because Jason did the sale documents on Louisiana. Jacob, sorry. That Jacob did some of the execution on Louisiana forms.
And that it was actually sold in a Texas auction.
Correct.
Mr. Donovan has filed a complaint with Texas.
Yes.
Confirmed that with Texas. Has he also filed a complaint with Used Motor Vehicle?
Yes.
Do you know, has Used Motor Vehicle advised that this is something that can be fixed?
I spoke with one of the investigators there, and I was told that they did not advise him how he could resolve this.
Okay, so at this point, now you heard the testimony from the state of Louisiana
Yes.
and also the testimony of Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to either one of those complaints?
On a side note to the Department of Administration's complaint, I believe the question was asked about sales tax. Because the sale was perfected in East Baton Rouge Parish, Jacob was obligated to pay sales tax to the city parish of East Baton Rouge, and did not. So they have filed a civil action in the 19th Judicial District to resolve that issue of the unpaid taxes.
Do you know if that has gone to judgment?
I do not believe it has. It was just filed, I believe, back in March.
What about Mr. Campbell? Anything to add to that?
No, I don't think there's anything I can really add to what Mr. Campbell said.
Okay. With regard to Jacob Brown, do you know the present whereabouts of Mr. Brown?
I do not.
Do you know of anyone who does?
I believe his mother does.
Okay. But other than that, he is unreachable?
Yes.
Does he have, do you know his current address or
No.
any address he may have had?
In the past, yes, but nothing since, I'll say, January of this year.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Phillips? With regard to this matter, I'm urging again that you make a decision as to the complaints filed herein. Be aware Mr. Donovan was advised, as for the other two Texas purchasers, that I don't think we have jurisdiction, but he did assert the statement as made by Mr. Phillips there that this was partly a Louisiana problem, and he did not wish to dismiss it. So that is why he's in this list, and the others are not. Again, we would ask for a finding as to which one of these should be able to file on his bond of $10,000. Further, we would ask for formal revocation of his license. As we discussed before, Brown's Auction, Inc., or Brown's Auction, LLC, does not have a separate license. It is licensed through Jason, Jacob, he started it, Jacob Brown. And as a result, we only have the one license number to deal with. If there are no other questions for anyone, we would pray for judgment.
Okay, the board will go into executive session.
Okay, we'll just need to do the vote.
A motion and a second.
Make a motion to
Make
go into
motion.
executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lockett?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
And just for the record, we are pursuant to the statute, appropriate statute portion for this.
Off the record.
Come back in. Roll call vote that.
I need a motion to exit executive session.
So move.
Any second?
Second.
Ms. Roll call.
Yes, Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lockett?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes. All right, on the action here, we're going to make a motion to revoke the license number 1421 of Jacob Brown, operating Brown's Auction, or any business name, and for the board to file a claim against the bond on behalf of Mr. Campbell, the LA Division of Administration, and Transcan.
Second.
Any further discussion on that motion?
You want roll call it, Sandy?
Yep.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Lockett?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
All right, the hearing is now concluded.
Off the record.
With regard to the matter, are you going to be preparing the...
Okay. Our next meeting date will be September the 10th, 2018. And I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Motion, yeah, we're off the record.